So I want to start out with big ideas. Let me ask you, 'cause I really want a lot of the class to be participatory, but I can't do that. I can't force you to speak. I can't drag stuff out of you. You know there's nothing worse than me asking a question and 30 people just looking at me like, can you move on, right? So there are times where this will kind of be a monologue, right? If I have something to say in a lecture form, I'll say it. Otherwise, I really want your input, and you do not worry about getting the answer wrong. Today is going to show you that that's necessary for us to get to the right answer. So if I ask you, what's the purpose of learning? I mean, why do you bother learning? Why do I bother teaching? What would you say? And it doesn't have to be that you think this is it, but you think this is one of the possible answers. Why do people learn? Why are you in high school? Yeah.
So you don't have one intellectual person?
That would be good.
Progress in life.
Yeah, that'd be good, right? What?
To prosper.
What is that?
To prosper.
To prosper, and you know, I don't think you're just talking financially, right? Although that's important too, right? Okay. Like, what would be not good answers? Like, I'm only here so I can do what?
Because I was forced to.
Yeah, I was forced to. Yeah, you are, right? Legally, so.
To meet and greet.
To meet and greet, right? Or how about, I just want to get into college and get a job and make a lot of money, right? Okay, so let me just say that there's nothing wrong with going to college and getting a job, right? And prospering even financially. But what you're going to find in life is that your choice is usually not between a good and evil. It's between two goods, all right? So I'm just being funny here. I use extreme examples because it makes a clear point. If you needed money, you wouldn't weigh the options of selling drugs or getting an education to get a degree. I mean, nobody sits there and weighs out those options. People who do things that are nefarious to make money know that it's bad. They just do it anyway, right? So your choice in life is usually between multiple goods. You do this all the time, right? So if you have a boyfriend or a girlfriend, you're weighing out how do I spend time with them between still spending time with my sports activities and my other friends, right? So spending time in sports is a good, spending time with your friends is a good, spending time in academics is a good, and spending time with your boyfriend and girlfriend is a good, and you're weighing that out. That's how life is, which makes it more complicated, right? Because there's nothing evil in any of those choices, all right? So our idea of learning is we've got to ask ourselves, what is it and what is the purpose of it, all right? So that's what we're going to start out simply by showing. There's nothing profound here. Well, I guess it is something profound, but it's nothing real technical. We'll start you out with some $1,000 graphics here. Look at that. That arrow's kicking up the dust. Here's the idea. Education is supposed to take you from a state of foolishness and bring you to a state of wisdom. Now, if that's not overwhelming for you, that's kind of a shame. Because that's the whole purpose for you to grow in wisdom. Have you ever heard the phrase, ignorance is bliss? Have you ever heard that? What do you think that means? What does it mean to say ignorance is bliss?
Like if you don't know something, it's protecting you from knowing that.
Do you think that's true? Like if I gave you a glass of poison to drink and you didn't know it, is that okay? If you really thought that education is just a matter of getting a degree, not really learning anything, as long as I have the letters after my name, I can get this job and make money, that's not okay. And I learned this too, right? That's only half of a phrase. Ignorance is bliss is not the full quote. But we only ever heard the first part of it. The full quote is, if ignorance is bliss, then 'tis folly to be wise. In other words, what it means is ignorance is not bliss. That's what it literally means. So what is the purpose of education? To take you from a state of foolishness to a state of wisdom. Ignorance. Ignorance is not being rude. Ignorance is the opposite of this. I don't know. Right? It could be trivial stuff, like if I asked you, how tall is the Statue of Liberty? Well, I don't know either. You probably don't know. We're ignorant in that regard. Right? So education is to take us from a state of ignorance and bring us to a state of knowledge. Okay? I'll wrap this together a little bit. Dullness of mind, we're going to talk about this on the next slide. Doesn't mean you're stupid. Okay? I'll ask you, and I'm sure I know your answer already, but I'll wait to hear it from you. Have you ever taken a course yet in this school where you got an A, and you know in your heart of hearts you really didn't understand anything they were really talking about, but you got an A? Anybody have that experience? Yeah, that's a shame, isn't it? I mean, I know you got the grade, and the grade shows up on the transcript, and college is going to love looking at that, but isn't that a shame? Can you imagine if it happens in college? You take a course on, I don't know, maybe you take a psychology course. You didn't get anything they were talking about. What are you talking about? Variables, extraneous variables for, I mean, what? I don't even know what they're talking about, but I can put it on the test. You know, now you've learned nothing at the cost of how many thousands of dollars? That's a shame, right? It could be that concepts are not clear to you. That's okay. Education helps clarify those things. It could be that your thinking is sluggish. That's okay if we can sharpen it up, all right? But the idea is to go from dullness of mind to understanding. Now, you don't need to know this now, but you will see these again. These are three of the gifts of the Holy Spirit: wisdom, understanding, counsel, knowledge, piety, fear of the Lord, and fortitude. I am a big person. Words matter. Words have meaning. These are not synonyms. Word information is not the same as knowledge. Understanding is not the same as knowledge. Wisdom is not the same as understanding. Wisdom contemplates the highest things in life. The most profound things that will never put a penny in your pocket. These are the things that are truly important to the human race. These are the things we celebrate in art, and in music, and in sculpture, and in architecture. Okay? Knowledge is coming to some sort of truth statement. Understanding is penetrating wisdom. All right? These things matter. This is where you want to be. You can be a doctor, or you can be a janitor and be in the foolish ignorance and dullness of mind column. Or you can be a doctor or a janitor and be in the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding column. Education is different. The reality is that years ago, I'm talking years ago, when you would train somebody for specific things, today's specialization is what it's all about. In the ancient world, that was what they did to slaves. You didn't want a slave to have general, broad knowledge. You wanted them to know how to do this. So we're so focused on it now, we feel incompetent outside of our area, and that's a shame, right? So sometimes you may have the feeling, why am I in this course? If I'm going to school for engineering, why in God am I taking a course on American history? You know, don't do that. It's because you're being formed as a human person. You're embracing what has been passed on for centuries. You're not a slave that's being taught simply how to build a bridge. I hope engineers know how to build bridges. But I also hope they know how to do something else. How would that look different in the world of politics today? We'd be able to have discussions on levels above slogans and above emotions, which we're not even going to get into it, but you know the situation we're in. Isn't that all what politics is today? How neat is your slogan? How emotional can I make an appeal to you? We can't even have these discussions here. And it doesn't matter. I'll give you a for instance, right? My daughter was going for an eye exam. So he's an eye doctor. He's a smart guy. He has no idea what I do for a living, nor what my background is. He starts to talk about how high schools aren't teaching any practical skills. I said, well, what do you mean? Well, they don't teach them how to balance checkbooks, which, ironically, probably isn't a skill you're ever going to learn because you'll grow up with debit cards. But I get his point, all right? There's something good to know how to balance your checking, okay? And he went on. And I'm just, yeah, okay, that'd be good. He says, they teach them stuff that they can't even use. I said, like what? He said, well, like Dante's, Divine Trilogy. Because I read it twice, I don't understand it. Has anybody read Dante's Inferno or Purgatorio or those?
I've read like sections.
Good. Well, good for you. Okay. You hit a nerve with me. Now I'm going to start talking. Okay? I said, really? You don't find anything practical or anything that's useful in your life that Dante Alighieri wrote? Okay. Virgil is the guide through Inferno and Purgatorio, right? Virgil represents reason. Reason is taking Dante through these realms, but reason can only go so far. At some point, the only person that can possibly be a guide for the highest things is the love of his life, who he never had, who was Beatrice. That will finish the quest. I think that's kind of important in itself. If he just knew that, and that's the most superficial thing you can possibly know about this, right? Well, we didn't have conversation after that, but that's my feeling, right? Okay, so what I'm saying is, we want to move over into this, and I do realize on your transcripts there are no columns for wisdom, knowledge, or understanding, but that doesn't dismiss the fact that that is what education is supposed to do for you. So don't ask, how can I use this, right? You would do that if you're becoming a welder and somebody put, you know, an arc stick in your hand. Then you can say, how do I use this? But this is meant to transform you. If you don't like the way the world is, you cannot fix the world. You know that, and I know that. You can fix you, and I can fix myself. Okay? That type of thing. Anyway, so now there are enemies to these things. You're going to see these today, and you're going to see these throughout the course and throughout your own life. Okay? Let's go back to dullness of mind. What happens when things seem unclear to you? Thank God you're getting a good grade, but you still don't quite get it. You know, what happens? What happens if you're not getting a good grade? You could get frustrated, right? Or maybe you never develop the skills. And I'm telling you, how to draw out what's important in a lecture and how to draw out what's important in your reading. If you don't start developing those skills, you will struggle through school and college, okay? Or even the rest of life. How about anxieties of life? Aren't you busy? I'm busy. You're not always in this room thinking exactly what I would like you to think. You're probably thinking about your boyfriend, your girlfriend, the sports you got afterwards, all these, you know, the schedule you have, whatever duties your parents want you to do. Maybe you got a side job, you name it, right? It never changes. Sometimes, you know, we get so stuck in this. And you know what else is really bizarre about this? We never question all the things that keep us busy. We never take an accounting of our life. My mother, God rest her soul, would write down everything she spent. Now, maybe you don't write it down, but you keep it in your head, right? If you had 20 bucks in your pocket and you went out, you would know how much you spent at Chick-fil-A, then I stopped at Five Below, you know. But you're probably not going to count the soda and whatever else you got, right? It's all that little stuff. If my mom went to the post office and got 3 stamps, she'd write down 3 stamps in the price. You know, I know yesterday I went over to Speedy, I guess it was Hess's or whatever, to get gas for, you know, the car and also the lawnmower. I know how much it cost, and I went in and get a soda. If you asked how much have I spent, I would just mention the gas, right? Well, think about that in life. How many things fill your day? Now, this is, remember I told you we're always choosing between various goods? Let me ask you a question. You know, we all are hoping someday to retire. And retirement for us means what? That you don't, not only do you not have to work, but you can maintain a lifestyle. I can go on vacations, I can golf, I can travel, you know, whatever. Does anybody know how old the idea of retirement in the United States that we grasp it is? How old do you think it is?
62.
Well, that's not a half bad number. It goes a little earlier than that, but that's still significant.
55.
Yeah, it's closer to the 40s. I'm not going to drill you down to the number, right? It started back in the turn of the century with the railroads. They had, they started, people weren't building, you know, rail lines. We had different types of transportation. So they started building as a civic duty. Come on, little people, get out of the system and let new people in, okay? The 40s came about after the war, but the 60s are pretty important because you really see the advent of pensions. Think of that. How much of our time we're looking to do nothing. You know, we always say we're going to free it up. Some people even say, well, I'm going to volunteer more. Do you really think people look at their retirement as an opportunity to serve other people? I mean, let's just be honest. I don't think so, right? So it's a novel idea. We fill how much of our time looking for that. Here's another silly thing. Now, there's nothing wrong with retirement, right? Remember, we're choosing between goods. Your lawns. Did you ever wonder when people started having lawns that you maintained and manicured and fertilized and flower beds? I mean, these, you know, if you go to Williamsburg, Virginia, or if you go down below D.C. and see the George Washington estate, you'll see how they had a lawn. And that lawn was kept up because either indentured servants or slaves went out with sickles and kept the grass down. And it took manpower to make the lawn. Well, today, we all have lawns because we have lawnmowers, right? I grew up in a little Italian neighborhood. Now, when I was real young, I'm the bambino of the young. My mother was one of 14, and I'm the youngest of my mothers. So a lot of my relatives had passed. There wasn't an ounce of the yard that wasn't planted as a garden. Now, one, because they needed it. Two, they wouldn't fathom the idea of having that something you have to maintain and something to look at. The idea of grass would have been kind of silly to them. So wait, you want me to do what? Plant grass. And what will I do with that? Well, it looks pretty. And what am I going to have to do? You're going to have to maintain it and mow it and trim it and then fertilize it. I'm going to spend... No. I mean, they wouldn't have understood that. Today, you know, now, is there something wrong with all that? No. But how much time, effort, money, and stuff do we put into this? Ask yourself, not is it good that you're doing, but what is it detracting from? And what I mean by that, how many 50-year-olds do you know read books on a regular basis? Not that that's the only way to get knowledge, right? I had a student years ago who actually got a call from his mom because he was trying to make the argument that he shouldn't mow the grass anymore. He should be reading Shakespeare. It didn't work. But, you know, that wasn't the point, okay? This could be an enemy to education. We're not just talking formal education. Apathy. This is the worst, okay? You guys know this. Pretend you're with your boyfriend or your girlfriend. If everything's good, great. If there's issues and you're having some arguments, you can deal with that, right? You can deal with them saying, you know, I don't know why you're with your friends more than me. You should be here. I mean, you can have the arguments, but at least you're having the arguments. What gets under your skin more than anything? When they pretend you're invisible. They don't return texts. They don't return whatever way you're trying to contact them. They walk out of the room when you're there. If you're talking to them, did she say something? Because I don't think I mean, that gets under your skin quick, right? Because it's hard to reach those people, right? So what happens, right? All this is going to go on throughout your day. And this is still the morning, but you guys know what 7th and 8th period's like in the school, right? It's like glazed over. It's tough. But you might as well get used to it because all through life, right? You can't always be a morning and a night person. Who knows what your day is going to be like? You might be a real estate agent. You got to be on your game. Every single person only knows you that moment. They don't know that you're tired. They just know that you're not helping them, right? So what happens is, as we go through this, some things aren't going to be clear to you. You're going to have to figure out, how do I master that? You're going to be worried about a lot of other stuff in your life, and it's probably important stuff, but you're going to have to put it to the side for 40 minutes. And if this is you, I don't care, it's hard for a teacher to reach that. Okay? And we're going to see how these things play out pretty quickly here. Has anybody ever heard that word before? Eureka. You heard it? What does it mean? What does Eureka mean?
Just like a breakthrough.
Yeah. Aha. Got it, right? Real quick story. You don't need to know the story, but, you know, for the sake of the illustration. This is Archimedes. Okay, we're talking like, you know, 3rd century BC. He was given the task by King Hero to tell whether or not the crown being made for him was solid gold. Because how do they know? The guy could be mixing silver in with it. Okay, so, you know, gold and silver have their own densities. And if you were able to measure a bar, and if there's the same size bar of gold and silver, the gold would weigh more. That's obvious, right? But a crown, you know, it's got so much surface area. It's like kind of like measuring the surface area of a, you know, what do you call it? Like a funnel cake. It's like, how do you start, right? So the myth goes that, you know, Archimedes is in the bathtub and he realizes his volume and density is displacing water. And he starts to think about it and he says, you know, if I have like a container of water and I put a gold bar in, I can measure what it displaces. And if I put the silver bar in, I can measure what it displaces and it should be less. So therefore, I can then take the crown, submerge it, and measure the displacement, and I can tell whether or not this is real gold or whether they mix silver in. So the idea is that he came upon this, yelled Eureka, stood up, obviously wearing nothing but his birthday suit, running through, you know, some city in Greece looking for King Hero. But nonetheless, that's the idea. That's what we're going to be after. Okay, we're going to be after that moment, and I'll explain what I mean by that briefly. You guys, unlike any, unlike any generation prior to you, have information available to you that's just profound, the word would be ubiquitous. That just means there's a lot. Like if I did ask you what the height of the, would I say, not the Empire, I said the Statue of Liberty, it wouldn't take you too long on Google to find it, okay? So you have all of this stuff, right? Like, so Archimedes knew what gold weighed, what silver weighed. He figured out the displacement. Until he put it in some form of an order, it was really just trivial and useless. So even though this is a cheap graphic off the internet, this is part